Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Stronger Together. I, along with my husband, Ed Umoja Herman, are super excited to have our guest. And we've known him for many years now and are so incredibly proud of him. Nafis Ricks joining us this evening. Good evening, Nafis.
Thank you for having me on this beautiful platform and to share these moments with you guys as we tackle this conversation about mental health.
Hmm. All right, Brother Emoji, I always pass the mic to you so you can do our opening properly and then we can get into it. Because initially I was going to bring our song on, Stronger Together. And I was like, no, we jumping right into it. We got to go. It's game time.
Well, first and foremost, we greet everyone in the name of God and our ancestors, and whose footsteps we most humbly walk, understanding that we are just an extension of our ancestors doing what we continue to do, what we could do, and do it better than they did it.
Hmm. All right. And there it is. So we are ready to roll. So you got some people not feast already saying they looking forward to the discussion, saying what's up. So they coming in. They coming in. Y'all keep it coming. Keep it coming. All right. We want to acknowledge you if you're in the chat. Also put in where you're joining us from. Hey CJ, we got CJ Sapong over on the Instagram side of life. So
Is that the soccer player?
yes, that's our CJ.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, all right. Hey, what's up, brother?
So used to play for the Union. And CJ, please put in there if you're still down in Tennessee, because Nafis, I think that might be where he is.
Wow.
So,
Look
and
at this
so
man.
we'll make that connection. All right, let's get into it. So, as I was saying to you, as I put this together, I didn't even realize mental health started with MEN. And I was like, oh, yeah, we're going to focus on the men and mental health. We're going to recognize the men and mental health because for so many years, interestingly, the men were really overlooked, and Black men specifically. All right. And over the years now, we know that it is vital. We know that mental health is real, right? This is something that we have to take care of. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's not, it's not that you're crazy. This is just well being.
It's a sign
And
of consciousness.
it's a sign of consciousness. Yeah. Go ahead. What do you mean by that? Speak a little bit more, Edmund.
Well, like you said, it's been overlooked for many years, and we've seen the results of that in our community.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a fractured community, and unfortunately, we have a lot of sisters trying to do the male and the female thing, but you can't. I cannot teach a girl how to be a woman, and a woman cannot teach a boy how to be a man. It's a joint connection. So there is a serious fracture in our community because we have not respected what each one brings to the table. And some people said this is by design, whatever it may be, is that it is here now. And what are we going to do to get rid of it, fix it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and make our community stronger and better as we move? Because where we have worked on it and fixed it, so we have seen communities better. So
Mm-hmm.
it tells us that it is a situation that we have to put um, energy in and functionally look at what do we need to do to fix man's mental balance. I won't say, Dr. Walls, I would not use the word health. I say balance.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say balance is that, because you're healthy doesn't mean you're balanced. But when you're
True.
balanced, to me, you're healthy because you're respecting the
Mm-hmm.
things in the community, and you look to balance it. I look to balance it with my wife. I look to what does she have that makes me better? What do I have that make her better?
Mm-hmm.
That is a balance in a relationship that I take very seriously because I come to you and I say, listen, I need help with this. And I'm not scared to say that. I feel stronger when I say it.
Mm-hmm. Let me say this real quick for those joining us for the first time on this platform. Please make sure that you have your pen and your piece of paper because you are going to hear some things that you're going to want to make sure you take down. This is class, y'all. All right. And if you haven't subscribed to Ask Dr. Walls 525 on YouTube, go on and make that happen. It's a click away. All right, Brother Nafis. We have known each other for years now. What is just come on, jump right on in. You a former baller, and I still saw you. You know, I saw a video of you the other day. You still got a shot, not as pretty as your girl, and not as pretty as your girl shot, but you still got a little something going on. So mental health. What's your thoughts? What's your feelings about this topic?
This conversation is, I think this is one of the conversations that comes up pretty frequently for myself, but
Mm-hmm.
also it allows me to be human. Uh, and now, since I'm on this journey to become a licensed clinician, it feels even more safe in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm noticing body language. I'm noticing conversations that
Yes.
before I knew something was probably up, but it
Yes.
wasn't clinically trained in those areas to be able to provide support. And I think a lot of time when you talk about mental health in particular, men talk about their mental health. It's just the way that they talk about it, trying to
Okay.
refrain from the negative and reframe what they're saying into a positive, or just trying to make sense of what they're trying to articulate. Because sometimes, like you said, men feel weak at times. Men feel inadequate, and we notice that men are they're projected based on their productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not productive, we feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what someone says, all right. That comfort in not knowing what's next for us is always the world is always putting us on this pedestal, like we have to be active and going and not just being. And I think a lot of men struggle from that. So just being in this space, it allows me to be humanized, but it also allows me to show empathy to the people that I'm around, the
Yeah.
people I don't even know, and even on this live too as well. Like the impact in a way where I might say some things that they make it understand from a different lens.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad. Hey, Mr. Green, it's good to see you. So, yes, there's a couple things that you said that I want people to capture. Number one, you said by focusing on your mental health and well being, you get a chance to tap into and become one with your humanity. And we have to understand that as Black people and as Black men, and I can't speak for other cultures because I haven't studied them all, right? I haven't studied all the races and what has happened to them, but I know that we as a group of people have been dehumanized for centuries. And so, by you men, by we family, loved ones, helping you reclaim your humanity and being is enough.
Mhm.
And learning what that means and what that feels like, because our feelings are also our superpowers if we learn how and what that energy means to us and how to utilize it in a healthy and productive way. What's going through your mind, Nafis?
Yeah, as men, you're not taught, especially a lot of Black households that I'm aware of. You're not taught to feel. I think as I got older, I allowed myself to feel, and that was through therapy. Going through it for 15 years, and then not being afraid to get everything that I was feeling from the bottom and bringing it up.
Yes.
A lot of times, it's like you don't even have the skills at a young age because you are sometimes shut down, and it's very difficult at times to combat some of the things that you might be telling the truth about, but just approaching your family sometimes they may not understand your plight.
Yeah.
And I notice when you're talking about particularly with black men carry a lot of weight of the world on their shoulders, and they don't even realize that this is weight.
Come on.
And when you are active, when you just go by the wayside and meaning just being productive, you bypass your feelings. You're trying to
Yeah.
suppress your emotions while you're in this journey, and you shutting stuff down. Well, I don't have no time to think. I don't have no time to feel. I just got to get it done. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like when I see that, it's like I understand from a distance. I understand
Mm-hmm.
what that black man possibly could be going through. How
Mm-hmm.
can we support them or any man at that juncture? Because I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important that we all have parallels, no matter what race you are. But I think it's so important to let men feel. Uh,
Yes.
when you give men an opportunity to feel and cry and show their emotions, that level of vulnerability is a way to release some of the things that they've been carrying since childhood. And
Come on.
for me, it's been amazing that I'm allowing myself to finally cry, allow myself to feel, to be a human being because I was born from a male and a woman, and it's normal and normalizing that.
Come on. That, I mean, as part of physiologically, crying is a stress reliever, which helps our central nervous system get back into regulation so that we're not always in fight, flight, or freeze mode. And when we deny the cry, we're denying something that we are physiologically wired to do to
Mhm.
help us be healthy. I want to shout out, there's two comments over on the Instagram side of life. T3 Den 2 says, true, as a mental health clinician and working with men who are imprisoned, they have the most difficult time verbalizing themselves in terms that they
Mhm.
don't understand. But as someone who empowers their feelings in existence, it's critical. So important. Brother Moja, what you have to say?
Ooh, what do I have to say? Lord have mercy. Well, as we're talking, I'm thinking, we black men, a lot of us have to make a conscious decision to change the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't make that conscious decision, then the narrative keeps on running the way it's been running. And just like a computer, if you don't change the program, the computer's going to run the same program. And I say that because growing up with an abusive alcoholic father, I never remember my dad telling me he loved me. Maybe when he was intoxicated, blurred out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his actions shows different. So when I had my son, and I made the conscious decision to change that narrative. From the time my son was born, I kept on telling him, I love you, I love you, I love you. I always told, even when he pissed me off, I still told him I love you. So now that he's 34, 33, 34 years old, and he has a son, I hear him saying it. But I'm not taking credit for it, but I've been saying, if I did not make a conscious decision to change that narrative and tell him I love him, give him a hug, walk with him and hold his hand and make him feel special, then that narrative that I had when I was growing up would have continued through him. But
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, this is going to stop now because I said I'm going to make a conscious decision to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing him now doing it with his son, because that's what I gave him. And so we black men have to make a decision, and we need our sisters to support us in these decisions. That are we happy with what we see with our children and our community, or are we going to make a conscious decision to do something about it?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to make ourselves right. We have to look within ourselves and see what we don't like or what we need to do better. Do we need to be better in the community, in our homes? Do we need to let our partner know that we love them? What do we need to do to make things better? We have to make a conscious decision. It's not an automatic thing.
That's
We
right.
gotta say it's not automatic. We have to work on it. Same way like everything else, you don't automatically learn how to drive a car. Someone has to teach you how to drive the car.
Yep.
Okay, playing basketball, a new coach comes in. He's going to teach you a new system. You got to learn that new system. So
Mm-hmm.
it's simple. So we black. I'm just talking about black. Oh man, but we talking about black men now. We need to make a conscious decision on what do we need to change to make things better.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't like the script in front of us, change it. Make a conscious. Ask for help. That's what the
That's right.
mental. Ask for help. There's nothing wrong in asking for help. When you ask for help, it shows strength. It shows intelligence, I think, because it shows that I don't know everything. So let me get the help I need to make this better.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what for me. That's one thing I think of whenever I'm talking to my wife. So I say I don't know. I'll tell people I don't know. I'm very quick to tell people I don't know. Show me what you're talking about because I want to learn. I want to make it right. I want to do better. Period.
Well, I'm gonna help you do better right now, and you're gonna take credit for making that change in your family line. And that got co-signed by CJ Sapong, who said you should take credit though. It's generationally impactful. So
Yeah,
take
I'll
it.
take the credit, but the thing is, for me, it's a process. It's a process. I'm happy to see my son doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I might not be alive to see my great grandchildren do, but if it goes down that line, then I guess I'll sleep more in peace.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we could take credit for it, but let's know we have a lot more to do.
Let me tell you this. Yes, yes, and yes. However, you came from a home where your father was an alcoholic and where he physically abused your mother.
Mhm.
And you saw that. And it could have, and that's true for many different people. Unfortunately, this is some people's reality, even to this very moment that they're listening to this. And they may be choosing to make a difference. And for you to say, write a new narrative. Now, that's something we call narrative therapy. Now, Feast and I know this. We help people write new narratives all the time. You don't have to be in therapy to write a new narrative. You make that decision where you say, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to change the trajectory of one, my life, and I'm going to take the initiative to change the direction of the generational line going forward. So our grandson will only know that men say, I love you to men who they love. Like this would be his only reality. He will not have a grandfather who is abusive or an alcoholic. That's not going to be his reality. All right. And so
And
we have to take credit for what you give credit where credit is due.
I do this, Dr. Walls, and you probably hear me. So, and with my younger brother, La, I do the same thing with him before we get off the phone. Now, that's
Yes.
not something we grew up hearing and doing, but my younger brother, when we finish, I say, "Yo, man, I love you, man." And I tell him that before he says it back to now. He says it back to me because he's like, "Whoa, my brother told me he loved me and stuff like that." And we have to make a conscious decision. I keep saying that we need to make, as Black men, we need to make a conscious decision to take the narrative and make it more positive. If it's positive, make it more positive. If it's negative, make it positive. And how do you do that? Talk to someone that you respect, someone who's working. Go find help.
Yes.
Get your questions answered that will help you do better, help make your home life better,
Yes.
make your community better. Because if you have issues walking into your home, then you need to find something. You should be happy walking into your home.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how hard it is. I always tell my wife, I said, when I come home, it's my little piece of heaven. I could exhale.
I sure am. I'm your personal angel. Go ahead, Brother Nafis. What you had to say?
No, I think what you said is very, very important. I think when we tell, especially Black men, to get help or seek out help, that's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And just from my personal journey of asking for help, it's like, who do we go to? Who's consistently going to hear us out? Who's going to consistently be that model? Because I don't say role model anymore. I threw that out because I'm not playing a role. I say real
Come
model.
on. Come on.
I
And
Come
like
on.
and
Yeah, I like that.
You
Yes.
know I do.
Come on.
You know I do.
Go ahead.
That's right.
yeah,
People who are listening to hear that, he just
yeah,
said,
Real model, not role model. Real.
yeah.
Real.
I don't want to play a role. Like, I want to be real to you. I want you to know that I have flaws. I want you to know that I'm not perfect. I want you to know that we're going to do this together. And I think walking someone through the process of, like you said, getting help, first you got to understand that you need the help. And what does that look like? And what do you need? A lot of times we don't even know what we need because we're so broken down from our past, from our childhood traumas. And as we develop, we still looking for answers that we didn't have, or we couldn't compartmentalize the stuff that we're feeling. It doesn't even make sense. We just know we're feeling something, and we just don't know how to articulate the message and saying, like, I need help in this. Because once again, men are based on productivity. And when we feel inadequate, we feel embarrassed, we
Mm-hmm.
feel low, we don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like we are worth, we don't have any value to the world, and we don't pump our chests out to hide those emotions of what we're really carrying. So
Mm-hmm.
I think when we talk about just getting people help, you have to walk the process with them. And I think especially for myself, I'm seeing it right now, going into become a therapist, but actually a Black male therapist. It's a lot of things that Black men go through that they don't want to talk about, like molestation,
Yes.
something big that we don't talk about,
Yes.
domestic violence, because of
Yes.
the shame and the grief that comes attached to it. But these are real things that happen in inner city communities where
Yeah.
guys feel very ashamed. And when you have social media, you have other people judging you.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you talk to? You just can't find a black male therapist. It's very, very rare.
Unicorns.
Do you want to be honest about how you're feeling to another man? Some people have a complex. Some men, particularly black men, have a complex where they don't want like authority from another black man because the father wasn't in the house.
Yep.
So when that happens, who am I going to look for help for? Like, who's going to help me?
Yeah.
Where am I looking?
Yeah.
If I go outside my community and all I see is the guy that's supposed to be the guy, but he's not modeling the behavior
Mm-hmm.
manner that I need to follow, and I want to be a part of a group or a community, but I know what they're doing. It might not be good for my mental health, but I'm fitting in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
it just like, and that's the reason why I'm in this space of what I'm doing, because I not only want to become a therapist, but I want to recruit more black men in this space to become and get the healing journey. Because if you don't have nobody who you can relate to, what have you, it can be very difficult. It can be
That's
very
right.
difficult to say, well, go get help. Well, where the black male therapist at is the first thing I'm asking.
That's right.
Or by the first thing I'm probably asking, like, who's gonna pay for it? Uh, I'm scared of it because I'm scared to talk about the stuff that I went through, and
Mm-hmm.
also, is it worth it? Am I
That's right.
wasting my time?
That's right. There's so many now. Let me just shout out some people on Instagram that are saying Doc Myers said real model well said. Nafis Ricks, you getting high fives from Io from Yo, and yes, so Nafis always dropping gems. So you were getting the shout outs going. Yes, so many of that. It is so important because men experience all of the emotions and feelings that women do. Women have just been given permission for generations to feel all of the different feelings and express all of the different feelings. And I say, unfortunately, many times men have only been given the kindergarten emotions: happy, sad, and mad, right? Those are the Sesame Street ones. And it's unfortunate because what happens is all of the other emotions get funneled into usually mad. So nervous, anxious, frustrated, annoyed, uncertain, embarrassed. All of that gets pushed into and ends up wearing the mask of anger. And unless you have someone who's honestly listening to you, not just hearing you, but empathetically and actively empathetically listening and connecting with you, that where you feel emotionally and psychologically safe enough to unpack it and be willing to explore and then admit to self, you know what, I was embarrassed when this happened. I was ashamed when this happened. I was in shock. I was scared. All of the feelings that many times men and boys have not been allowed to explore. I shared a couple weeks ago, Nafis, you were on that call where I talked about driving down one of the streets in Philly, and there was a little 2 year old, and he was crying. And the man that was with him punched him in the chest and told him to man up. And I'm like, he's two. And only because of a piece of my brain that said safety did I not stop the car and roll down the window or jump out and be like, he's two. He needs to know what his feelings are. He needs to understand them. Because if not, they get suppressed and repressed, and that stuff sits in your body, and that causes pain and health issues. Go ahead, Brother Umoja.
But let me throw a question at you and Brother Ricks and people who are listening. What is the definition of man up?
I'm gonna
What
turn
is
that
the
to y'all. Go
what is
ahead.
the definition of man up? Because what is the definition? Because you tell him man up, you tell a little boy to man up. What does that mean? Even though your definition might be incorrect, but how does he know what man up is?
Correct.
You tell him man up, and he's like, huh?
Right.
So what does man up mean?
I think that comes from historical. I think the patriarchy, the dominance of being a man and leading, and the stereotypes about what a man is,
Mm-hmm.
manhood. I think they all play a significant role on how we see each other.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we're supposed to be strong. Man up means you got to handle your business by any means necessary.
Mm.
And I think that perpetuates in a society where the man is supposed to be the head, the leader. So I think that boys are socialized early at an early age, like just even when we're playing with Barbie dolls or if they play with footballs, it's like the socialization is happening unconsciously, and the men are looking as to be dominant, physical. Masculinity has to be put on to 100, and you know we have the word like toxic masculinity and things like that.
Is that selective man up? Because if you look at history, you look at who's Mark Anthony followed. He went crying at the Queen of Sheba. Okay, you look at Cleopatra, what she did. So are we being selective when we say man up? Because you have these strong so-called male leaders in history who are overcome by women and listen to women. So when you say man up, are we being selective in how we look at man up? Because it's I think it's a situation we have to look at, because you could tell a young boy man up and then explain to him this is what men do. This is what we need to do. But you can say to him man up, and you can show him the opposite of that. So when we say the word man up, I know growing up in New York what it's supposed to be, right? But now I'm a grandfather, and and I think about when my son was there, I never told him about being man up. I always said I need you to do right. I need you to do right. And so if he took that made to being man up, fine. But we cannot be selective with that term and think it's okay, because it's not. When we say explain to them what man up is, just change the narrative of what man up means. Man up, just put some positive energy behind it and make it be something proud that young boys will be happy to man up, because that means they have a responsibility in their home, in their community to do certain things. Because to me, man up means I can hold the door for a woman. Yeah, man up means I see grandma walking the street with some bags. This helps because she's walking the same way with us. Man up might be, hey, say hello to the sisters and to the brothers when you walk by them. So yes, I think if we change or we make sure the narrative of that term is to our positive image and our positive
development and involvement for the self and community.
I think it's a good thing, but we have to make that conscious decision to do that.
Yeah. What you thinking, Nafis?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the evolution of the human, of what we are attuned to, like what are we viewing every day. And I think with the morals and the values of what you said, holding the door for a woman, even holding the door for a man, there's nothing wrong with giving a brother a hug. I'm talking about one of those hugs like I'm embracing you, not like, this is your sexuality, I do this and do that. That doesn't mean anything for me. Just going back to the values of what manhood could possibly be, because I think it's diverse. Some people might think manhood is punching somebody. Some people might think getting a gun and shoot. It's subjective in a sense, but also, like you said, those positive reinforcements within the community, I think they have to come back. But I think it has to be a level of synergy between the older adults and the youth, and trying to meet in the middle, because I think the world has changed. I think what we're seeing, like especially like from social media, you seeing death. Like I don't know how much death that I see on social media that's I'm surprised that it's not censored as much stuff that's and when you don't see those values and morals imprinted into the community, they no longer exist. They evolve into something else. They no longer, I feel like they're no longer there because they're not being taught. That's not being marketed. That's not being promoted as something that's healthy, or that's something that we should stand by as far as man up. Man up is putting your chest out. I got all the money and I'm flashing all the money in the cars. That's not, to me, that's a form of man up if that's what you consider it. But I think there are ways to show your manhood in different arenas.
Yeah.
Dr. Waltz, that comes to our, the way we're doing our web series, right?
Yeah.
Let
me just put this first. I want you to know somebody said growing up in New York, you're spot on. So, all right. And then we have a question in the chat that I want us to get to also. Okay. So go ahead.
I think, our web series, I made a conscious decision as the head writer to make sure we put an energy out that challenges us to be better. Okay, so there's certain things people who know me know that they will never see in our series, but we don't need that. It's done so much, it's there. So let's look at what can we do in our web series to take this topic we're dealing with and make it a conversation for the family.
Yeah.
And so when I write from a position of I want to make my global community better.
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do? What words do I need to use to start the conversation? I might not be part of the conversation, but if I could start the conversation in that direction, hopefully we will take it and we will run with it.
Yeah. So, quick commercial. So, what he's referring to is our web series Kadaga, which can be found on YouTube on UCCN TV. Again, that's UCCN TV. Please like and subscribe. We are in season 3, and a new episode drops every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you kindly. All right. So, now here we go. The Chris James Journey says, what's a creative way we can teach Black men and boys? And thank you for differentiating, because Black boys are not men. And a lot of times they do not get a chance to be boys and go through their developmental journey properly. So, what's a creative way that we can teach Black men and boys how to express anger in a healthy way? Now, Feast, you up first.
Great question, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Great question.
I think that for me, so as I get more into the field and finding my way, what has helped me, and I think I have used groups and things of that nature while I did my internship, was doing art therapy, exploring your inner self, and artistic can be proposed in different ways, and I think doing art, it allowed me to release some of the things that I was feeling, but I seen the emotions that some of the kids were feeling, like playing cards, playing with Play-Doh, playing with clay, just to calm them down. And when I started noticing that, is that they were very angry from the start of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time that conversation ended, they were like, this was a release. And they felt a connection. And I think you got to meet Black boys, particularly Black boys, where they're at,
Yes.
and don't hold them in a box. I
Yeah.
think you have to, when they're angry, allow them to be angry and give them space. I think a lot of times, what you mad for? They're mad for a reason. They're angry for a reason. You can see in the body. Like one thing that I learned about just like now, especially being aware of myself and my own biases when they come in the room, you never know what a boy, or particularly a Black boy, has been through the night before, the week before, the year before. So you got to come in with like anything is possible, but allow them space. And I think a lot of times people say, well, I got to say space. You can't tell me a space is safe. I have to be able to hold space, because if I'm the trigger, then it's not safe. I can't say, oh, I'm creating a safe space because we got an empty room and it's just me and you. That may not be a safe space for them.
Right.
Now I have changed my language of it, saying like, I want to hold space and I want to invite you.
Mm-hmm.
My professor, Dr. Myers, invite you to this space, and when you are ready, I'm gonna meet you where you're at.
That's right.
So I think art therapy, music, it enters the body unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to do is, when I start using music in my own private practice, I would like the client, the boy, to allow them to play the music what they're feeling, and break down the song and enter how do we enter this conversation, but this relationship, because it is a relationship when you are doing therapy.
Yeah.
And I think that breaks a wall down. And if they don't have anything, we're not going to listen to anything. I'm going to drive the car and I'm going to help steer it, but also just allow them space, because I think a lot of times boys don't get space just to be.
Yep. Yeah. In my book, Feelings, this is not a shameless plug. This is the truth. In my book, Feelings, where Froggy T is having a bad day, and he ends up snapping on Bunny, and then he says, I needed to go off by myself, right? I needed time to be alone. He said, Froggy T said, I needed some time to be alone, and I chose to go to my room inside of my home. It helps me think when I'm by myself, and I didn't want to be distracted by anything or anyone else, right? He needed that private time for reflection, and it's okay. And we have to learn how to give people that time and that space. And part of the strategies was that Thomas the wise old turtle, because this was the thing, Bunny needed help figuring out what to do. And Thomas the Wise Old Turtle says, look, remember when you're in a relationship, it's not just about you.
You have
All
more.
right. So sometimes you have to give people their time and their own, give them space.
Mhm.
And that's sometimes you have to give your friends some space. Friends need to explore their feelings at their own pace.
Mhm.
All right. And so we have to be able to give our people that and let them know it's all right. If you need to go into your room, as long as you're doing something safe, you can take that time out. So Nafis already told you we have art. You can do drawing, clay, Play-Doh. There's also exercising is very important. Going, I talked to someone today, a male, and he said, I took a 30-minute walk. He said, I intentionally knew I had to move that anger energy out of my body, and I took a 30-minute walk to nowhere, right? But the purpose was to move that energy. Boxing, playing basketball, shooting, right? Football, all of those things where you can release that energy, singing, dancing. That was used to be my big one growing up was dancing. Um, there's all types of ways to explain how to move the energy in a healthy way because that's what feelings are. Feelings are energy
Mhm.
in motion. So if we think about emotions, right, the E stands for energy, and then you have motion. So emotion. And so it's a matter of how do you channel this energy that we call anger? How do we channel this energy that we call sadness? How do we express it? How do we get it out of our bodies? One of the things that when I work with young men, and I'm talking like middle school, I explain to them, I do it with people of all ages, but I explain to them that when we get angry, when we get stressed, that this old part of our brain back here get that volume gets turned up. This is what's connected to our brainstem and kicks in the fight, flight, or freeze. And so when this is turned up, the old brain is turned up, the new brain, which has all of our executive functioning, right? It has our decision making, our critical thinking, our analytical skills. When this volume gets turned up, this volume gets turned down. That's why you can't talk to people when they're mad, right? They're not hearing you. They can't, it's literally offline. So we have to teach strategies like what Nafi shared, like what I shared, like the deep breathing, because what the deep breathing does is it calms this part of your body down so that the volume can get turned down. And as the volume gets turned down in the old brain, the volume in the new brain, the decision making, the critical thinking, and so forth, gets turned back up. I literally explain this to third, fourth, and fifth graders, and they have a better understanding of how their body works. And so many times they'll be in class getting ready to snap out, and then they remember, I got to do the deep breathing. I have to do some writing. I have to do some journaling. I need to go off and take a walk because I got to turn this volume down so I can turn this volume back up. Brother Moja, thoughts, comments. What else can they do?
Right. Well, you said some very powerful things, and Brother Ricks is saying something very powerful too. For me, I always tell people is everything we do, when we breathe, we move, whatever we do is energy. Energy is what makes us move, what makes us think. So when that anger comes in, it's like we have to teach our young boys, like you just said, Dr. Walls, what the energy is and how do you control the energy. For me, it was martial arts. And
Mm,
also before I loved to play soccer, like brother CJ Stallone. Teaching a young boy how to kick that football correctly. Now I say soccer ball. I'm from the Caribbean, so I still say football. Okay, so but to kick that soccer ball correctly, how do I turn my feet to kick that ball this way or that way? When you teach them how to use that energy, and then they get upset, you say, where is your energy? What energy are you using?
Mm-hmm.
And then they start looking at energy. What's energy? You say, energy is your actions. Your actions. If you're saying a word, you're using your energy. Whenever you do anything, you're using your energy. I need you to focus, like you just said, Doctor. I need you to focus and doing something good with your energy. And so that takes you to the back of your or to the front lobe. So then all of a sudden that turns that up and turns the other one down. So when you break it down for them, being from the streets of New York, it's like, yo, man, what you gonna do with your energy? They're saying that sometimes this freezes somebody to make them think, we talk about energy. What's energy? All of a sudden it opens a conversation and gives them time to turn one down and turn one up. So sometimes it's the words you use to make that person that stop, like you would say, it's like taking a breath, having them take that breath. So what does that person like to do? Do they like running? Do they like walking? Do they like writing? Say, well, hey, you know what? Why don't you, hey, write me something. Just write me something. What do you like to write? You like to write? Write me something. All of a sudden they have to start using that front part to start thinking about what they want to write. So we as adults, and I'm not a clinician, so we have to try to figure out, what do we need to do to talk about Black man's health? What do we need to do to help to assist Black man to use the front of their brain instead of the back of more? And how do we turn that up to make us more powerful in a positive way, make us more powerful in our feelings, make us more powerful in our positive actions? What do we need to do? How do we see these young boys playing basketball? Okay, let me show you how to dribble the ball correctly. And when you go to shoot, I need you to shoot like this, so your ball, you get that 3-pointer down. All of a sudden you got their attention, and you could take the energy and move it into a positive place.
Well, I think what you're saying actually goes with the question on the Instagram side of life. That's for you, Nafis. Io from Yo says, I have a question for Nafis. How can self-talk be impactful when you grew up not believing in yourself? How can those positive words hold power when you don't see yourself as those positive things?
Wow. Great question. I think this is I don't think it's a layered question, but I think it's a real question. And the reason why I say that is because that environment sometimes dictate how you see yourself. And if we don't have any positive outlets to affirm, particularly Black boys and Black men, self-doubt is always creeping up behind you. So what I would say to that is that whether it's in school, it's at the rec, finding something that you connect to, whether it's a Black male in that building, because it's always Black men in recreation centers in school. Well, not in schools as much, because if they are, they did this disciplinarian. They are kind of the relationship person. So I would say, if you have an uncle, a father that's in the household, and try to get affirmed by that and tell them what you need. And it may not feel comfortable. And I know that's very difficult for a boy to do, especially if it's not echoed throughout the household. So that would be one thing I would do. Search for a mentor if your father's not in the house, or whoever your caregiver is, or lean into the school. And I know they have programming in schools where they help out boys try to connect with people. I know when I was growing up, we had a whole bunch of programs where we try to connect to Black men in particular, like my coaches and things of that nature.
Yeah. I think the other thing is, well, Brother Umoja, anything, you want me to read the question again?
Yeah, read it again, Dr.
Okay. Because I do agree, Nafis, that it is layered. There's pieces to it, and I want to make sure we address it because it is very important for everybody, right? So it says, how can self-talk be impactful when you grew up not believing in yourself? How can those positive words hold power when you don't see yourself as those positive things? I literally just had a session with this today. This is why I want y'all to speak first, because I can run with it. Go ahead.
Wow, like Dr. Ricks said, it is a lot of layers in there. And I want to talk from my perspective. So something I experienced and just blew me away. Okay. a few years back, Mr. The Mr. Came told me to come into the school, the SLA school, to do a photography class for the kids.
Mr. Evans.
Dr. Evans now, right?
Dr. Evans, yes.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. I know photography. But then I had to sit down, me personally, because I've been doing photography for such a long time. I had to sit down and break it down to where I was talking to babies. Because I was like, I understood so many people that's take and press that button, and that's it. So I said, if I wanted to reach these young people, the majority were young boys of color. And here I am as a black man standing in front of them. And we had young girls in there too. And I said, what do I do so that I get their attention? And so my thing was to relate the movement of the camera in my hand to an extension, and also make them understand the camera is the human eye. And when I said that, I got their attention. And once I got their attention, I started to drop little words in there that will catch their attention. Like, won't you like to freeze action? Or you see this, or you say, don't you watch the Avengers and they do this and they do that? I started relating to things they could. And so that way I had to find words and things that they could relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And that challenged me to slow myself down, slow my speech down, find the words that will connect me to them on their level. And once I got them on that level, we got them to start using the camera in a very positive way. And you remember, Dr. Walls, some of the teachers they end up using the kids' pictures for stuff.
Yes.
And that blew the students away. They're like, oh my goodness, he's using my pictures. Also, they saw a worth. They felt a great self-worth.
Yeah.
And I stood back and blew me away because I wasn't thinking of all that. I was like, all of a sudden they were looking at it, and then I was able to tell them this is math, angles and stuff. All of a sudden they were listening to me, and I was like,
before you go there, I want to highlight a couple things that you said. So to go back to the question where it says, how can self-talk be impactful when you grew up not believing in yourself, and how can these positive words hold power over you when you don't see yourself as those positive things? And what you did was you made it relatable so that they were able to see themselves in that particular role. And then it was validated by people who were around them, like their teachers, beyond you, beyond themselves. And so one of the activities that I do with people is I have them do what I call mirror talk. And that is that you go and you look yourself in the mirror. You look at yourself in the mirror, and you have to look yourself in the eyes, because many times you look in the mirror and you look at your nose, you look at your lips, you look at everything but your eyes. You have to look yourself in the eyes, and you literally have to begin to speak things into yourself. Right. So, and one of the biggest ones that is challenging for people is just saying, I am worthy. Being able to look yourself in the eye and feel I am worthy. And it's amazing. Men, women, boys, girls, teens, they will literally break down and cry because they don't realize how hard that is. And I had a wonderful experience where I had given this as an assignment years ago, and it was very hard for this male to do that. And then now here we are many months later, and they just happen to be running off, I'm capable, I'm skilled, I'm powerful, I'm this. And I said, I'm sitting there in the session like, oh, what happened to Mr. I'm not worthy? And they were like, oh my, they didn't even hear themselves that the transition had taken place within themselves. And so one of the things that you do is you create that list of all that you want to be and feel. Be sure to do that. Make that list, and then identify ways for you to feel that. Side note, there are a lot of things that we want in life. It's not that we want the object, we want how it makes us feel. The object represents the essence of what we desire. I love horses. I have loved horses since I was little. I wanted one in the garage. I couldn't understand why I couldn't have one. All right. And as a grown person, I still love horses. And one day, as a grown woman, I sat with myself and I said, why do I love horses so much? And it's because horses represent freedom to me. They can run as fast. They put it all out, and they cannot be contained. And that essence of freedom is what I desire. That desire not to be contained is what I desire. So it's not the horse, it's the essence of the horse. Now, Feast, I saw you sit up and smile when I started describing that. What went through your mind?
I think you hit it right on the nose. It's the representation of, like, it sounds like you're referring to the horse, what it means and what it brings to you. And I share that. I share that because it's like a lot of things that I tailor back from. I'm very simplistic. I would say a minimalist. So I don't need an abundance of things to make me feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
I notice that people are captivated by materialism because that's what you see. You think that I'm having $1 million is gonna make me happy. Well, you're gonna go chase the next million, and you're gonna chase the next million.
That's right.
So it's like finding your inner happiness, and with self-talk. I think it allows you, once again, that when you gotta look yourself in the mirror, it's very difficult. Like you said, like the brother said, Ayo, if you don't have that in your household, it's very difficult for a boy to look themselves in the mirror if they not validated.
Mm-hmm.
Validation is something that men seek,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
and just being, and it's not validation because you feel like you're invalidated, but you want to make sure that you are worthy of who you are, of just being, just existing. So when you said that, it's like, what do you want as a man? Like, what do you want as a man? Like,
Yeah.
what are you striving for? And if you don't, does this one thing that you are attached to, is that everything that you represent if you don't get it?
Come on. That's real talk. And these are real internal conversations that we need to have with ourselves because it is about increasing one's self-awareness, right? Life is a process of evolving and discovering. It is our own personal development. And along this journey, we get opportunities to come into contact with someone like Nafis Ricks, who is openly sharing his journey of self discovery and self awareness and fulfillment, and looking at what his life is. In the infamous before the game, I had a what, Nafis?
I had a name.
What's that about?
Yeah. I think for me that's when I first came up with that slogan before the game, I had a name. I had to find me, and I think sports was that, like, that was my identity to the world. But I didn't embrace it. Like, I was playing out of anger, I was playing out of hurt, I was playing sports to get out of the shadow of being more than an athlete. I know how cliche as that sound. I found myself having more peace in this stage of my life than I ever did of bouncing a basketball. And a lot of times we are told as athletes, sometimes, or former athletes, that, oh, your sports is supposed to be your safe haven. For me,
Mhm,
I feel like I was in hell, whatever that may be. But I
mhm.
felt like people expected me to be this great athlete, and they didn't see me for who I was. And then when I no longer want to do it anymore, it's like my value went down.
Mhm.
And until I transition into this space, I feel like I'm in control. Like, you can't tell me how to practice. You can't tell me what it looks like to be a therapist. You can't tell me that I can't become a doctor.
Mhm.
And even for myself, that self talk of pushing myself to the limits of, like, I'm going to do this because it feels comfortable. It's comforting
Yes.
within myself. So I'm validating myself by allowing myself that I'm not just an athlete, and I'm going to show you. But also, if I don't succeed, my identity is not built around an athlete of highs and lows.
Mhm.
And I think right now where I'm at currently is like I still can present in an athletic uh, visibility.
Yes.
I'm not constrained to that because I'm older. I'm not the same a basketball player, and I don't mind sharing my story. But that's just one part of who I am, and that's
Say it again.
like you said, that's just one part of who I am. But
Mhm.
we evolve, and I'm okay with the journey of evolving and turning this something into something new. But I'm in control of how I feel about myself. It's not a basketball or somebody judging me, and I'm getting posted on social media and saying, "Oh, he's not that good." Okay, cool. Like, I'm the clinician. I'm the guy in the room that's trying to support what's going on. So I'm okay with that. And it didn't take me a long time. I think it took a long time for people to accept me for who I was.
Yes. Would you say it took you a long time to share who you were?
Yes, it took me a long time because I was afraid of what that people would run away from me and not embracing like that's weird and that's not normal. It's like I looked at the stats and I looked at the numbers. I said I was in a field that was 1% of trying to make the NBA, and then I'm in another field, become a psychologist, is under 1%. So it's an anomaly in a sense in both instances. But I
Yes.
feel like I have more control of who I am and how I express myself
Mm-hmm.
openly, and not afraid of whatever comes with this field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you just a 1%er. That's what you're saying.
That's what it's looking like.
That's it.
That's what it's looking like.
And embrace it, right?
Yep.
And so you're absolutely right. I know when I went into the field, I hadn't seen a black woman psychologist. I hadn't seen a black man psychologist. I was like, I know I can't be the only one out here, but if I am I willing to follow the path that has been the desire of my heart since I was 12 years old? And what do I need to energetically do? How do I need to energetically level up to make this thing my reality? Because this is a part of who I am. I know when my husband and I first started dating, one of the things that he requested was that I don't bring it home. And I said to him, it is a part of me, but it's not the totality of me. So I know when I'm being clinical and I know when I'm not. And right, because that's self awareness.
Mhm.
So this is one of the roles, as you talked about, right? A real model versus a role model. Being a psychologist is one of my roles. And, when somebody says Dr. Walls, it's like, I'm activated. Okay, let's go. Versus when somebody's like Cat, it's like, all right, what's up? Right? It's another essence of who I am. And for me, life, y'all go on and write this one down. If you write down life, Life, and F stands for fullness. If you take the F, the fullness out of life, you are left with an LIE. You're left with a lie. So it is important that you live the fullness of your life, whatever that means for you. Brother Moja, thoughts, comments?
No, I'm listening to what you and Dr. Ricks is saying, and it's just so
Are you speaking something over his life?
yes, I am.
Do
Yes, I am.
tell. Talk about that.
Well, we tell our children, we say, "What do you want to be?" And say, "I want to be a fireman. I want to be." So I need you to train to be a fireman. He wants to be what he is. Be a doctor. So he's gonna be a doctor. So we're gonna
That's right.
talk it.
Speak it.
We're gonna talk it. We're gonna speak it into existence.
Can I pause you for just one moment? Nafis, what's that like to hear a black male speak that over your life? And I know you've had other people speak it, but this is real time for people. What's that like for you to experience that?
It's uncomfortable, but it's good. It's a good feeling, uncomfortable, meaning that I'm still in a maze of going through the process of becoming a doctor. And like I said, I didn't have none. I didn't have nobody look at become a doctor in my community. So for me, I know it's going to be trailblazing in a sense. So when I hear another black man say you're going to become a doctor, I'm like, it's a surreal feeling to be honest, because it's like I never seen myself in this. I don't know what this looks like,
Mm,
but I'm appreciative that someone is acknowledging that because, like you said, it's another part of my identity.
yes.
And like I said, when I talk about the real model and the role model, I'm not playing a role in no one's life. I'm being real about my experience,
Yes.
and I may play a small role in your life, but I'm trying to be transparent as possible because I might inspire you to become a doctor too as well.
Totally.
Yeah,
Right.
I love it. I'm thankful. I appreciate it. Like I'm grateful. I'm honored, and it feels good.
Good. Thank you. I want to highlight and underscore, and Brother Moja, I'm going to come back to you. Something that Nafis just said. He said, I don't know what this looks like. And many times there are aspects of life within our journey that we don't know what it looks like. And so we shy away from it because we don't know what it looks like and we don't know what it feels like. But it is a part of who we are. It's kind of like that uniform or that costume that's sitting in the closet just waiting for you to put it on and embrace it. And part of it is you're going to style it the way that it needs to be styled. right? There is no other clinician that is going to be like Dr. Nafis Ricks. It doesn't matter. I got mentees galore. Ain't none of them just like me, and I don't want them to be. So it is about you looking at your life. What are those characteristics and those qualities that you want to have? And as Brother Moja has been saying all night, create your narrative, and then you literally fill it in. This is why, right? Imposter syndrome is, that's a whole nother conversation we can have another time. Um, right? We can fill it in with experiences. We can fill it in with practice. We can fill it in. Just real quick on imposter syndrome, I think it's overused. I think it's misunderstood. And I think it doesn't give people an opportunity to develop themselves in area. We do not come into spaces knowing how to do everything. We have to take time to practice. And so it's not fair to discredit yourself and say that you have imposter syndrome when you've never even had a chance to practice or try something. There are things where we are undeveloped, and there are things where we are underdeveloped, and we have to take time to develop ourselves, and we need to give ourselves permission to grow and develop. So that was Mama Cat in that moment. Okay, go ahead, Brother Moja. That was Lioness. Look, that was Lioness.
No, but I'm glad you said what you said. For me, when we started dating, and when we were out in public and doing so, I always called you Dr. Walls.
Mhm.
And people who know me know I always, and my thing was, some people say, why you call her doctor? I said, now that you're my wife, I said, if I can call her Dr. Walls, that means you could call her Dr. Walls. And it's just like putting that vibration out there. And like for Dr. Ricks, and it's like putting that vibration out there. So now you have something to go to. And if we tell our children you're great, then they want to be great. And so they'll say, how do I be great? What do I need to be great? So now they are challenging you, and you are challenging them, and you're starting a conversation with them about
Yes.
being great.
Yes.
So you tell them, I love you, and they say, what do you mean when you say you love me, Mom or Dad? What do you say when you say you love me? Now they're challenging you to explain yourself, and it opens conversation. So once again, you're changing the narrative, or you're controlling the narrative on talking about Black man's health, and what are we putting into our children, and what are our children challenging us to put into ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have to go within and find the words to explain that thing.
Yes.
And when that happens, I think my son, when he was young, he said, Dad, what about? I said, let me think about it. Even though I knew the answer, I just purposely said, let me think about it, because I wanted him to understand that think about your actions before you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And now he said, but Dad, I thought you knew. I said, yeah, but I want to think about it. Mm-hmm. He's looked at me, he's getting tired. But I think he got the message. I was telling him, I was like, I want you to think about it before you do it. Mm-hmm. Because once you do it, it's a done deal. The ramifications, and either it be positive or negative, comes in. And so when we have that conversation with our children, and you're talking about Black men's health, Black men and Black boys' health, it's going to take a joint effort to make it positive. And unfortunately, that falls on us, and we got to step up to the plate and assume the position. And if you don't know how to do it, find someone who could help you, who could assist you. That's why I say it takes a village to raise the child. It takes a village to do this. You cannot do it by yourself, brothers. We need help. I was blessed to have a lot of elders around me growing up, and I watched them, and I mimicked them because I like what they were doing. I like how cool they look and how cool they sounded when they talk, and the people respected them when they walked into. We can remember when we were growing up, with some elders walked into the room, and like the whole room went ooh, like say when Charles Schwab talks, everyone listens. It's like this elder walks in, he starts talking, and he could be talking very low, but everyone, the conversation, elder voices come down to listen to this elder. And so as we look at that now, we are the elders. What are we saying? What are we doing?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this, Nafis. You are saying a lot on your social media platforms. There are messages that you choose to share with the world. What's your reasoning? What's your comfort level? What's your hope?
Great question. So for me, uh, I wanted to. I first when I post, I'm intentionally posting because I know someone's probably watching. They're probably going to ask a question. I get many DMs on posts that I post, and I always
Hmm.
try to be intentional about. Let me post something that's realistic to someone's lives. It might not be mine. It might not be my story. It might be something that I heard or something that I viewed or posed a question. But I really want people to think and open up about their mental health. And I think when you give words, it allows people to express themselves, whether it's through a
Hmm.
DM, through
Hmm.
a comment,
Hmm.
but also it just makes them think. And for me, my method is to, and when I use pictures too, pictures say a lot of things without being able to verbalize it. I feel like I'm channeling my inner child. When I was a kid, I never got the opportunity to articulate myself.
Yes.
So now I use pictures with a
Okay.
caption to fill that void that I was having as a kid
Yes.
and post a picture to give somebody visibility. I'm a visual learner, so I
Hmm.
know some people out there need to see the visual of what I'm trying to convey.
Yes.
Use a caption to describe on what I'm trying to describe, so people can feel more in tuned. And
Hmm.
not posting just for the fun of it, just for likes and things of that nature.
Right. Right. All right. I'm going to ask you this, and I know our time is coming up, but I think this part is important. Not that everything else wasn't important. I just don't want us to lose this space and time. Early on in the show, Brother Emoji mentioned about being able to be healthy but not being in balance, and the importance of balance in one's life. And I know a lot of times people, especially over the last couple of years, it's been the big statement about work-life balance, right? Well, go ahead. Tell me what just went through you without me going. I have more, but I want to hear what was in your thought.
I don't believe you could be in
Oh,
balance. I believe it's a priority. You put the priority where it's at. I think
mhm.
work-life balance is you have a choice, and if you don't have the autonomy to make that choice, then you could never be balanced. As a black man, I'm never balanced. I
Mhm,
put the priorities where the priorities need to be, but it's
mhm,
always something lingering in the back of my brain
yes,
due to systematically, due to
mhm.
home structure. So balance is me taking control of my choice and
Okay.
taking control of my autonomy to be whatever I want to be
Yes.
and be okay with the consequences, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent.
Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna add awareness to that list as well. And the reason why is because in my research around wellness, balance consists of about nine, anywhere between 8 and 10 different facets of our life. And many times people are just looking at work and one other facet and they're not paying attention to the other facets. So, what are those other facets? So, we're talking about physical well being, we're talking about environmental, we're talking about financial, we're talking about professional, we're talking about educational, we're talking about creative, right? There's different wellness areas, and we have to learn how to tend to social, right? We have to learn how to tend to the different areas of our life, spiritual slash religion. We have to look at all of these different areas and making sure that we're tending to it. When we don't tend to those areas, then yes, we end up out of balance, right? And so we are also teaching the next generation that these various areas of life exist and are important to be tended to. So that leads me to this next question for the two of you about parenting. What is it? Oh, what just happened, Nafis?
Well, I'm gonna wait till you ask the question, but I like this. I know this is gonna be a good question.
Because parenting, Brother Moja has talked a little bit about it from his point of being a parent to a black male. You have a black female. And what is that like for you as a young man, as a young black man, being a parent? I'm going to just leave it broad and just let you have at
Great question. I knew it was gonna be a great question.
it.
It's As a discovery, for me, I had mom and dad, but at different times. So I had the structure early with my dad. My father, he was a very strict education. He laid the groundwork for me. So I'm very like. Then when I moved to with my mom, it was a little bit lenient because she wasn't around as much. Not because she didn't want to, but my dad we live with my father. But I say all that is that I allow my daughter to discover herself. And what I mean is, I'm not a black woman, so I can't tell you how to be a woman. I can only hold space once again to discover about and shape kind of what you're thinking and help you and speak to other people sometimes. Sometimes the message can't come from me about what I'm expecting out of her. We all have expectations about each other. And I know for me raising a black woman, I look at myself and I look at some of the things that she do and I'm like, that is me. I pass that down to her. Like
it has nothing to do with gender.
It's
genetics.
It's genetics. And when I see that, I'm not surprised because now I'm trying to fast track it. Now I'm trying to beat her to the punch. I'm trying to shift her thinking like, I know she's going to do this, but how would I respond? I'm not going to give her a negative response. I'm like, what was you thinking? And give her a space to be, whether it's some of the things that I'm like, I don't understand. I don't know why you did that. But I honor that because my parents were saying the same thing to me. When I did something wrong, like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not for me to make sense of it. It's for me to help her make sense of what she's doing and how to navigate through the space. So for me, I really take an approach of like, I'm gonna allow you to make mistakes, and I think the best teacher sometimes is the mistakes, but also be able to talk to you in a voice where you understand that there's consequences with it, and it may not feel good at times, but I'm here to pick you up. And like I said, for me as a father with a young daughter, it's like it's an experience. I enjoy it. I break down sometimes about it. It's like, wow, I can't believe. And when I'm talking about breaking down, I cry about it is because that I'm like, I can't believe I'm in this position that I have a 12-year-old. And now today,
I can't believe she's 12 too.
Yeah, like it's like today she's talking about, I got military 4 Jordans, and that's the name of the Jordan. So she's like naming the stores that she's going to buy sneakers. She's naming it. It's like, what's so for me, it's like I'm thrilled about the journey of her exploration. And as we continue to build our relationship, I want her to never feel like she's closed off about being herself, however she expresses herself. And go with the journey with her and learn from her. Because I think right now, like, the kids can teach you a lot by nonverbal and verbal, and what they see and what they like. And it's our job as, like you said, as a village to be able to shape what they're thinking and just give them some tools to be able to navigate.
Yeah. And thank you for saying verbal and nonverbal. One of the things over the years when I've worked with women who have complained about men not being verbal they've complained about men not communicating. And I've had to teach that communication is verbal and nonverbal. And actually, I say men communicate more than women. And why do I say that? Because research says that nonverbal language is spoken about, sometimes it'll say between 75 and 85% of the time. So now it's a matter of, do you understand their nonverbals? It's not that they're not talking. Oh, they talking. But you have to learn their language. And this becomes important in communication, that we're not making assumptions. We're checking in. And I've done it a lot on this call. I've seen Nafis raise his eyebrows. What does that mean? Right? Because I want to hear your thoughts. I want to engage with you. I want to understand you. So I'm not going to assume that's what it means. My poor husband, he gets it all the time. Well, what was that breath about? What'd that mean? What was it?
Well, Sheila, you hear this? I hope she's all alive.
All right. I want to know. I want to be able to understand, because I want to be able to speak on your behalf when and if needed. But I also want to be able to know what it is that you need when and if needed. You want something. I desire, and I have chosen this man to be my mate. So I desire to know you better than anybody, and I don't want to not know you. So I'm not going to assume what I think it means because it meant something. I tried that. Don't get me wrong. I tried it because that's what it meant for everybody else. But he was clear and let me know very quickly he was not everybody else. So I had to get to know him. So as someone who is in relation with men, giving them a space to speak, giving them a space and time to be validated, to be heard, to be empathetically understood, to be actively listened to. I have found that to be very important. And I can honestly say throughout my life, literally in eighth grade, you know how they have like going to be an Olympic athlete, best dressed, best as well. Of course, mine was going to be an Olympic athlete. But the other one was being a boy's best friend, because the boys would always come and talk to me and share their relationship woes, their school woes. And I mean, this was, like I said, by sixth grade, I knew I wanted to do this. Right. So it's important that we learn how to do it. And it's important that y'all learn how to reciprocate that. Right. So it's not just that y'all get to be listened to and women no longer get a chance to talk and listen. We have to learn how to be in communication with each other. Nafis, what's going through your mind? And then Brother Umoja, I'll let you talk and then we'll get ready to wrap up.
I'm working on that. I'm working on, and I think it goes back to that man up manhood of letting your guard down and ego. Because when you have broken relationship in the past, they show up sometimes.
Yes.
And it doesn't have nothing to do with your partner per se at the time, but it's probably a trigger point.
Yes.
And I'm allowing myself to, take the information and listening to not to respond, but listen to hear partner out.
Yes.
To respond or give her feedback, because maybe she wants to be heard.
Yes.
And she may be right. I'm just fighting it. I'm fighting that internal fight with myself to try to be right or try to negotiate what I'm feeling instead of just. So I'm taking inventory of my feelings while, like, when tough moments arrive, and I don't think they tough moments. I think we just sometimes we on opposite side of the spectrum.
Yes.
And we're together. So the partnership, we're trying to build the synergy together and align at the same time. So meeting her at the middle and making her feel validated too, because I think it's a two-way street.
Yes.
And just and being okay with it. Like, we're on the same team. So I'm working on that. So when you said that, like, I definitely understand the struggle.
I did a whole workshop on it called 360 Degrees, and I'm gonna I'm gonna let you pick it up, because we were sitting at the dining room table one night and I couldn't understand how he couldn't understand me, and he didn't understand anything I was saying. And I'm like, I'm a communications expert. How do you not understand me? And how is it that I don't understand you? And I just don't understand. And then he stopped me. He said, time out, time out. And we weren't arguing. It was just, but the tension was there. And he said, time out. He said, you need to understand that there is 360 degrees to everything. And next thing I know, I had visions, because I'm a visual learner at times too. He's a graphic designer. I said, I need you to create this image for me. And the next thing I know, I had a whole PowerPoint presentation and started teaching 360 degrees and what gets in the way of us seeing each other's point. And that's that internal exploration that we have to look at what is keeping us from connecting and relating and respecting each other. Go ahead, Brother Umoja. I pass the mic.
That was said, but everything that was said for me, and my wife knows, I always say to her, there's 360 degrees to everything. So when I do not understand what she's saying, or I have a challenge with, I change my angle of listening. I change my angle of looking at things. Because anyone who when you look at a circle, there's 360 degrees to that circle. Depending where you are on that circle, the way you see the center of the circle is different. The center of the circle never changed. It's still the center of the circle. So if you change the angle, if you go from 15 degrees to 9 degrees or whatever, and that you will see that center from a different perspective. It's still the same center. So in a relationship, for me, when she says things I don't understand, I change my perspective, change my angle, because I grew up in New York City. I'm from the Caribbean. So I have a Caribbean flavor to me. I have a New York City flavor to me. She grew up in Philly. She has a Philly flavor to her. So It's still chicken, but we cook our chicken differently, but it's still chicken. And so for me is let me see where she's coming from, because she's from Philly. I grew up in New York, so we're going to see things differently. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just different, and we just have to respect it. So changing your angle gives you a different perspective on stuff. It doesn't mean you're wrong and she's right, or she's right and you're wrong. It just means we grew up differently. She grew up differently than I did, so we will definitely see things differently. So it makes no sense for us to get into an argument, because the center of the circle stays the center of the circle. It is us that have to change the degree or the angle where we're standing, so we could see different parts of that center. And when we see it, we could evolve and we could become better at what we're doing.
Yes.
That's what a 360 degrees is about. Because if you take 1 degree out of that circle, you have an incomplete circle. Okay, and so as in a relationship, I have learned for it to be a successful, good, positive relationship, I just sometimes need to shut my mouth and listen. So that's my way of changing my degree. And I'm listening to her, I'm like, oh, okay. Now, even though I don't agree with her, I will always respect what she says. I say I don't, and I say I don't get it, but you know what? I respect it. I let you have it, because I just don't see it, because the way I grew up is different than her. So, but I still respect what she's saying. I don't have to agree with her all the time, brothers. You don't have to agree, but just respect them. Just give them that respect, because they grew up different than us. We grew up different than them. So it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different. It's still the center of the circle.
And when you're in a relationship and you're choosing to make a lifetime out of it, then you are able to take your time in the understanding. Sometimes we like to resolve things very quickly, but sometimes it takes time to resolve it. And it's okay, because the ultimate goal is that we are staying together and we are working together. That's for those who are able to do so in healthy environments. Sometimes you got to call a spade and deuces. Right? So each relationship is different. All right, Brother Nafis, what are some things that you want to make sure you tell the people, be it final words? It doesn't matter if it is not in alignment what we talked about. You got all types of healing power within you and energy. What you want to give out to the world?
First, I just want to say thank you for having me on the platform. First and foremost, this
Of course.
conversation was fruitful. I'm fulfilled in knowing that I learned something, not only about myself, but ways to impact clients, future clients, but also when I'm speaking to mass audience, allowing people just to be and give them autonomy of choice.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to, give all of me. I know they tell us in therapy not to self-disclose, but when we're dealing with a particular Black population, that's our connections sometimes.
Yes.
So for me, I want to just leave the people with an opportunity that if you're not in therapy, it's different ways to heal. I do recommend therapy. I recommend therapy not only as a place of safety, and not all therapists are great. I think you have to speed date your therapist to find the right one.
Come on.
And don't be afraid to jump on lives like this when you get conversations about mental health and mental well-being.
Yes.
And lean into your greatness. Don't be afraid to fail. And like I said, I didn't see myself in this space, and now I'm here. And I'm embracing all of me as I evolve. And I want everyone to be mentally well. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. And where can they follow you? And what events do you have coming up?
Yes, you can follow me on IG, Nafis, Nafis Ricks, Ricks at the number 2. Twitter, Nafis Ricks, Nafis Ricks, all together. Facebook, Nafis Ricks. And then I have an event on Saturday. If you're in the Atlanta area, all fellas, it's at the gym called Wait No More. I don't know the exact address, but I'll post it on my IG. Where we're talking about men's mental health. Free event. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to work out. It's just more of a conversation. We talk about men's mental health and awareness and how we can support our brothers that's out there.
Fantastic. And if people would like you to come and speak, be it at their school, their organization, wherever, how should they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they should connect me on IG, but my email is collabmanagement, COLLABMGMT@gmail.com. If you're looking for a speaker or someone to come and do workshops with your students as well as the staff too as well, because I think they need it too as well.
Yeah. Can you put it in the chat, your
Yep.
Gmail
Yep.
in there? All right. Or like I would say, or one of your people, if they in here, put it in the chat for him. Brother Moja, any final words that you have for tonight? Because the healing continues, right?
Yeah,
But for tonight.
for tonight, all I could say, well, those who are listening, July 13th, my wife is having an event in Philadelphia. We'd love to see you guys there. She's gonna be going over her books, and we're gonna be talking about some of the stuff because her books are a reflection of what we spoke. Some of the stuff we spoke tonight is reflected in her books.
Mm-hmm.
So July 13th, right here in Philly at GSAC, we're gonna be having an event where she's gonna be going over some stuff. So we invite you all to come out to Germantown, July 13th. If you want to follow me, easy. Just follow me on Facebook at Ed Umoja Herman, or my website, which is www.umojaphoto.com. UMOJAPHOTO.com. That's the best to find it.
And we need you to follow what?
Kadaga.
Yes.
Kadaga is our web series, Kadaga, Kadaga. Kadaga is on our YouTube channel, UCCN TV. So please follow, like, subscribe. We need to get subscriptions up. This is about us telling the story from our perspective. Be very clear, family. We're talking about human trafficking, but in all forms of it on the series. So, and once again, let me stress, it's about us telling the story from our perspective and keeping it family friendly, so it could be a conversation the family could have. So,
yeah,
there's nothing. Everything is PG or PG-13 on our series.
Yes. Yes. All right. And for those who'd like to get in contact with me, you can always go to my website, askdrwalls.com, AskDrWalls.com. If you would like to schedule a brief consultation, that link is on there as well. Definitely be sure to follow me here on YouTube at Ask Dr. Walls 525. Check out the replays. Every show that I do, I am doing some sort of teaching and providing some sort of healthy tips so that you can live your greatest life. And on all platforms, it's Ask Dr. Walls, AskDrWalls. All right, y'all. So I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well. And as always, God bless and live your greatest life. Have a great night, everyone. Good night. Thanks for joining us.
It knocked me off.
Say good night.
Well, thank you so much. This was great.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to end the live.